Bonjour YouTube, welcome back to our channel. Today we are continuing our Journée de Patrimoine series and we are taking you to the former factory of the Royal Porcelain of Sèvres. On y va! Today we are going to explore the story of the Sèvres Porcelain Manufacture, well known around the world for its pristine porcelain, signature blue color, and its royal past. We start the day at the Centre International d'Études Pédagogiques. The building dates back to the mid-18th century, and its exterior appearance has remained largely unchanged to this day. It all started back in 1740 when the Vincennes factory was founded by two entrepreneurs, Gilles and Robert Dubois, with the financial backing of Louis-Henri de Bourbon, Duke of Bourbon. In fact, you can see some of the early porcelain pieces on display at the Vincennes townhouse, which we visited last year. Link in the pinned comment of this video.
The purpose of Vincennes manufacture was to produce fine porcelain, inspired by the Oriental porcelain imported by the East India companies, and highly prized among the European aristocracy. Although the beginnings were modest, with the arrival of the talented chemists and artisans, the Vincennes factory quickly gained popularity. It notably developed innovative decoration and coloring techniques, such as the famous sky blue, which has become emblematic of the brand.
Seeing the growth of the Vincennes factory, Madame de Pompadour convinced Louis XV in the early 1750s to commission the construction of the Royal Porcelain Manufacture of Sèvres, and between 1753 and 1756, the current buildings were constructed under the direction of the architect Landais.
The ground floor held storage for clay and raw materials, as well as the wood pile. The first floor accommodated the molders and workshops for plastering, sculpting, and engraving, connected by a long corridor that provided circulation between different services and the furnaces. On the second floor, sculptors, turners, repairers, and garnishers carried out their craft. Under the sunlit attic, painters, gilders, animal and figurative modelers executed their work.
We took the grand staircase, which was used by the wealthy clientele, to go up to the grand exhibition and sales room, known today as the Grande Bibliothèque, or as it used to be called, La Salle de Vente, that features carved wood doors crowned by guirlands surrounding the King's medallion and the arms of France, typical decor you'd see under Louis XV. Madame de Pompadour personally oversaw sales of the manufacturer's works in this room. Today, this grand room hosts meetings.
Going back down to the lower floor, we found ourselves at a terrace or Le Cour d'Honneur. It is dominated by a square pavilion called Le Pavillon Lully, which is the only remaining vestige of 17th century property that belonged to the composer Lully. It has remained in the same state as when Madame de Pompadour chose to establish the manufacture on the property. Speaking of Madame de Pompadour, if you haven't seen her apartments at Château de Versailles yet, we recommend you check out the video on our visit there. Link is in the pinned comment.
Passing through La Salle de Garde, where associates and artists waited for the king, we were met with La Cour du Roi, enclosed by a gate flanked by two small pavilions. It features a fountain decorated by Adam, employed by Madame de Pompadour at Bellevue. For over a century, the manufacture successfully survived here multiple political changes and historical upheavals until 1876, when it was transferred to the banks of the Seine, where we will be going next. As for these buildings, they were hastily renovated and became home to l'École Normale Supérieure for young women. Lucien Poincaré, professor of physics from 1894 to 1900, actively promoted experimental teaching. The other professors included Monsieur Perrin, Monsieur Langerin, and of course Marie Curie, who had just discovered radium and gave two 90-minute lectures regularly in her laboratory on the second floor.
In spring 1945, Le Centre International d'Études Pédagogiques was created to support the renovation of French secondary education and train teachers for new classes. Le Centre also laid the groundwork for French as a foreign language as a specific discipline. This is where all of your DILF, DELF, DALF, and TCF tests get attested.
But back to ceramics. A few minutes walk from here and we arrived to the Sèvres manufacture along with its Musée de Céramique. Today, this place continues to produce both porcelain pastes and glazes, maintaining the artistic and technical traditions of 3 centuries. It's worth noting that these visits are done by the workers themselves and not outside guides. We are very grateful to have been able to secure 2 spots on arrival without prior reservation, as previously their site showed all spots for the atelier visits were taken.
During our first stop, we learned about soft porcelain, which is used in the atelier dedicated to sculpture, molding and pastiage, allowing artisans to shape, model and refine forms by hand with impeccable precision like these incredible flowers.
During the early years, the manufacture produced only soft-paste porcelain, a material originally developed in Florence in the 16th century, but it scratched easily. In 1705, the chemist Botger of Saxony discovered by chance the secret of hard-paste porcelain, inspired by Chinese techniques using a kaolin-like material from the Atelier region. The secret was carefully guarded and only became known in France in 1763, thanks to Pierre-Antoine Anton, whose work at Sèvres made the process public. On our way to the Atelier of cutting and trimming, we passed by the 6 ground wood-fired kilns, only one of which is still operational today. To reach a firing temperature of 1300 Celsius, it takes 33 hours of continuous burning and maintaining 4 separate fire chambers. Then the kiln must be left alone for an entire month before being opened to avoid thermal shock, which could damage the fragile porcelain. And even though modern electric and gas kilns are used for efficiency today, the wood-fired kiln is still fired once every 4 years to ensure that this old method is preserved. Following the discovery of kaolin at Saint-Yrieix, near Limoges, in 1767, chemist Pierre-Joseph Moquer was able to produce, starting in 1769, the first hard-paste porcelain in Sèvres, with its rich and warm white appearance, thanks to the large presence of kaolin.
Some items begin as barbotin, a technical name for liquid porcelain. This liquid porcelain is carefully poured into one of the 100,000 plaster molds that the manufacturer keeps in reserve, a true treasure trove that still contains some of the original molds from the 18th century. Looking at these artisans work, the material was truly inspiring. Their skill and savoir-faire is a result of true dedication and excellence, crafted by years of demanding training and profound artistry. Without these artisans, La Manufacture de Sèvres could not exist.
We must remember that La Manufacture de Sèvres contains 27 specific crafts that are all different but interdependent. The artisans here must go through rigorous training and practice of at least 6 to 10 years in order to work here, as porcelain is notoriously delicate and capricious material. One needs to know and be able to recognize the material, its state, its sense in order to work with it, because porcelain is unforgiving. Hence the need to maintain the savoir-faire and the handmade approach. Glazing is a discerning feature of Sèvres porcelain. The colorless glaze is made in-house, following a unique recipe with quartz and pegmatite. The items are dipped into the liquid glaze. Each piece and type of porcelain requires its own action to achieve the perfect result.
In fact, La Manufacture de Sèvres intentionally maintains a niche production model, focusing on creating small series of art objects that are individually created and perfected. There is clear preference to produce few but beautiful and perfected pieces.
We reached the gilding atelier, where the items get finalized and decorated. After painting, the pieces arrive to this department where the artisans here work by hand, relying on their own training, memory, and intuition. Speaking of painting, certain colors require several firing steps. Le Bleu de Sèvres, for example, needs to be applied and fired 3 times to achieve its signature tone. Some color combinations are reserved exclusively for the government and are not permitted for general private sales. Certain motifs are so intricate that completing a set of 12 plates can take up to 6 years of dedicated labor, with hundreds of hours spent on a single design. In this atelier, artisans apply pure 24-karat gold, often mixed with lavender oil, done entirely by hand. It's simply amazing to watch the hand glide along the curve of the porcelain, leaving a shimmering ideal line. Honestly, I can barely hold the camera without shaking, and here I was, watching an artisan effortlessly draw perfect lines of gold. There is no room for error, and they'd obviously never hire me, so I'll just stick to making videos. Each piece made under royal patronage was marked on the bottom with the interlaced double L of the king and a letter indicating the year of the manufacture.
And since we are on the subject of marking, and while we make our way to adjacent Musée de la Céramique de Sèvres, let's talk about the sophisticated system Sèvres possesses to monitor and protect its pieces in public collections. Each year, between 10 and 20 works are recovered, often because they appear on the resale market. These pieces, sometimes in private hands due to earlier thefts or administrative errors, are verified using marks found on them. Recently, a set of valuable tableware was recovered. It was identified thanks to a piece being offered for sale online that caught the attention of the manufacturer, who requested the assistance of the police. Upon completion of the investigation, it was discovered that the seller was already under police surveillance for other reasons, and therefore a search of his home was carried out. It was remarkably effective as it led to the recovery in 2022 of approximately 40 pieces of a tableware service that had been stored in the 60s and 70s at Matignon in the Prime Minister's office.
Such rigorous vigilance ensures that porcelain in deposit remains properly preserved, safeguarding the heritage for future generations. Le Musée de la Céramique de Sèvres complements the manufacture by serving as a center of inspiration and study for the public and artisans alike. Under Alexandre Brongniart, the core collection that would become the Ceramics Museum began taking shape around the year 1802, and the museum was formally inaugurated in 1824. Today, the establishment houses over 50,000 objects. The collection is truly remarkable, tracing the history of this noble material and up to today's contemporary creations. International submissions are also present, showcasing the techniques and innovations coming from abroad. The museum also documents the technical evolution of porcelain, including the biscuit porcelain, which is unglazed white porcelain resembling marble, and the creation of hard-paste porcelain, which became Sèvres' signature material, prized for its strength, translucence, and brilliance. Visiting La Manufacture de Sèvres is an exquisite voyage through centuries of living excellence, artistry, and tradition. It is a living and breathing creation that strives to perfection at any given moment.
I am exhausted. We literally spent 3 hours in the Musée. We came here for the Musée initially, but because we couldn't find any place to visit the Atelier, thankfully we were so lucky and we had 4 different ateliers.
It's just impressive how even back then, back in 18th century, you could have such beautiful colors, and they haven't even lost their vivid appearance. They're so beautiful even today. And the taste, it's just again and again and again, it shows too that classical art can withstand centuries and still look amazing. Highly recommended. As Sinan said, it's absolutely impressive. It's amazing to see work that goes into each detail. They don't deliver something with fault in it. They even mentioned today with the lady who was talking about the gold. She said that some of the pieces that are completely, damaged, or they arrive to them from, let's say, from Élysée, for example. If it arrives to them and they cannot restore it or they cannot do anything with it, what do? They send it to the laboratory, and the lab actually lifts off the gold so that the gold can be recycled and reused again. Why not? But anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. And let us know in the comments below if you like this kind of visits. Maybe we can do more of this type of visits. And yeah, until the next one. Awa.